everyone, Maichi here, and today we're going to be playing more Higurashi. I'm excited because it's getting really good. It's getting the spooky, and I'm excited for the spooky. And I hope you're all excited for the spooky too. Oh goodness, my voice. Let's go. Yes. We're on chapter 12. Alright, let's go. Oh no. Catchy. Just leave him alone. His friends went missing. It must be really hard for him. Normally, my dad never shows me any consideration, but this time he did. Shouldn't Catchy stay home from school for a while too? I think it would be safer not to go until the police do something about this. What they mean by, like, friends? Do they mean, like, everyone? Maybe. Compared to what could happen, taking a few days off wouldn't be a bad idea. Anyway, how is logical not to close school during such a dangerous situation? What do those teachers think our children are? Mom and Dad were getting pretty riled up, but at this point, I couldn't care less. Besides, that wasn't the only thing I couldn't care less about. The breakfast table, the food in front of me, the time and date, myself. I really had no interest in anything. This feeling, it was like a dead fog in my mind. It felt like getting dizzy after taking strong medication. Catchy, how are your studies going? You've gotten further than the other kids, haven't you? If you have, then you can take a few days off, alright? I didn't even feel like answering. I don't blame him. Oh, you remember what day it was? Today was Thursday. Only 4 days had passed since the Watanagashi festival. Such a short time, and yet now things were completely different. Everything had changed. The tranquil village, bright and clear as if it were an Indian summer, had undergone a total reversal. People were made to disappear every night, and we couldn't even relax when walking out in broad daylight. The village had become a world of fear. I had no right to curse this outcome. After all, the one responsible for everything was me. That night, I couldn't resist my honestly tiny little and incredibly stupid curiosity and broke the taboo. This isn't somewhere we should be going, is it? Let's not. It's a crime to force your way into a locked building, even if you don't steal anything. Shun, now that you know they weren't having some secret rendezvous, you've had enough, right? I don't want to do something like this. What if Rika-chan's dance ends while we're messing around? I prattled on as I took the lock from Tamataki's hands and put it back on the door. I'll forget everything I saw here, so come on. Let's go. Takano-san was fretting, but I pushed her away. Tamataki-san grinned painfully. Shien's shoulders drooped as if to call me an idiot. Even so, I didn't care. I pushed everyone farther and farther away. Rika-chan's dance was still going on. Then, at last, her dance was brought to a close with a roaring applause. I too, until my hands turned red, I clapped. And clapped. Hi, Tourist and Mark. Welcome to the stream. Welcome. Thanks for joining. I hope you're having a nice day today. Hello. Ding dong. Isn't that Rina-chan? She's here because it's your usual meetup time, isn't she? So not all of his friends are gone. I looked up at the clock. It was 5 minutes past my time to meet with Rina. Catchy, shouldn't you take a few days off from welcome? You're right. Thanks for being so considerate. I rose from my seat. I went to the entrance to greet Rina. Good morning. We're going to school as a group starting today. Good morning. Shush. Good morning. We're going to school as a group starting today, so you can't be late. Ah, that's right. If we if we, the ones farthest away, were to be late, the younger kids on the way there would be waiting for us. I think I'm going to take some time off from school. Okay, Rena answered shortly, nodding. I think you should do whatever's best for you, Kichi-kun. So you don't need to feel that you're weak or anything. Oh, and here. It's a notice they're sending around. Could you give it to your mom? I think it has a lot of important announcements in it. I took the notice. There were a lot of more pages than normal. The one on top announced the disappearance of the mayor, Rika-chan, and Satoko, and that they wanted any information about them. It made my heart ache. The police are looking as... I am not maturing. I woke up at 12 and I haven't warmed up my voice at all. Because I was debating... Okay, so I was debating on leaving the house and doing stuff or streaming. And I chose streaming because I've said that I would finish off Higurashi because I think there's only 12 chapters. So that means this is the last chapter and this chapter 2. And then we can move on to chapter 3. At some point... Oh, I need to... I need to answer my landlord. Sorry. She's making pancakes. Yeah, I'm okay. Can you stop calling me Bud, please? The police are looking as best they can, too. The police are looking as best they can, too. They'll find them for sure. Just be patient, okay? Rena said, smiling in an attempt to give me courage. Rather than that, though, her smile looked like it was because she herself wanted to believe they were safe. Hold on. Rena, you're not going to question me? Ah! Ow. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, why can't I hear anything? Is there supposed to be music? And then I realized I didn't have my headphones around my neck. I was like, oh, that is why I can't hear anything. Nope. Rena, you know, don't you? About that night, Do you mean when you snuck into the ritual storehouse? I was speechless for a moment, but then I bit my lip, made up my mind, and nodded a little. So it's all out in the open, really. I shouldn't do bad things like that. Mi-chan was really mad. So she was upset. I suppose she would have been. I don't think she was as angry about you sneaking in there, though, as much as about you hiding it from her. Maybe Maybe you should have told her yourself and apologized. I should have told her myself and apologized? That troubled me. Just 1 week ago, I did something that I myself should have apologized to Mion for. I'd hurt her badly. However, I hadn't realized that at all. Plus, with all the confusion that Shion's appearance had brought, I still hadn't been able to talk to Mion about it. Rina, you're right. I never realize anything until you tell me. Kichi-kun, hypothetically, if you had admitted you'd done something wrong right away and apologized to Mi-chan, I wonder if Rika-chan and Satoko-chan wouldn't have had to disappear. I couldn't answer right away. I couldn't admit to that. Wasn't Rina telling me right now, though, that I should have admitted to my crime sooner? If I had done that and apologized, would things not have gone in such a horrible direction? Rina's eyes were filled with kindness, but they weren't naive enough to forgive me for keeping silent, and they stared fixedly into my own. Yeah, you're right. If I had admitted my crime sooner, then Rika-chan and Satoko wouldn't have had to disappear or die. Does that mean from what we learned before that Mion killed Rika and Satoko, or do they just mean the curse? Smack! The palm of Rina's hand slapped me in the cheek. I stood there unmoving, my head still tilted in the direction I'd been hit. It didn't hurt at all. I don't think that anyone has scolded you, Kitty-kun, so I'll scold you in their place, okay? I pressed a hand to my cheek, now warm with embarrassment, and quietly stared down at Rina's feet. Going anywhere you're not allowed to go was a very bad thing to do. Do you understand that? Uh-huh. Answer me with a yes. Kechi-kun? Water. Yes. Also, what's even worse, you didn't admit to having done something so bad. You should have never done anything bad in the first place. But not admitting to it or apologizing for it is much worse. Yes, I was wrong. For a few moments, Rina stared at me silently and intently, as if gauging my remorse. Then, finally, the tension in her face softened, and she smiled. Okay then, it's about time. I should be going. Alright. Be sure to give the notice to your mom, okay? Also, warn her not to go out to pass it on after it gets dark. I bent down to pick up the notice, which I dropped when she slapped me. I would have dropped it too. The pages had come out of the clasp and were now making a mess on the floor. I gathered it up one by one. My hand stopped at a single more light-hearted page with peaceful sentences dancing on it. We still have plenty of homemade soy sauce in stock. Feel free to come to the Sonozaki house if you want some. What is this? I picked up the page and scanned the rest of it. They were stockpiling high-quality soy sauce they got from faraway relatives in the Akita prefecture. They had gotten a big shipment recently. They couldn't use it all, so they wanted anyone who wanted some of it to feel free to come over, is what it said. As a PS, it said it arrived in barrels, and to please bring a 2-liter bottle or other container for it. That's how it tied together. If you need some soy sauce, then you would go to the Sonozaki house. Rina, did you know all along? Yeah, I knew. Rina had already been suspicious of Mion as soon as she noticed that the big bottle of soy sauce was missing. Rika-chan had taken the bottle and gone to Mion's house, and there she was erased. Rika-chan wasn't coming back, so Satoko called Mion's house, since she knew where she had gone, and then Satoko got called there as well. That meeting on the day the mayor disappeared, didn't Oishi-san say that the 3 families participated in it? The 3 families would include the Sonozaki family. Didn't he also say that the current leader was really old, so her heir, Mion, frequently stood in for her public appearances? While the mayor was returning from the shrine, Mion called out and stopped him. She talked to him and invited him to their house, and then she made him disappear. It was probably even simpler to make Shion disappear. Shion was part of the Sonozaki family. They probably knew exactly what she was doing at all times. I'm sure they even knew her part-time job schedule too. Thinking back, wasn't that Angel Mort store managed by the Sonozaki family? Setting up an ambush for her there wouldn't have been any trouble at all. I'm going to Mion. I'll go apologize. I'm going to have her put an end to everything. Mion probably won't forgive me easily, but I'll go and ask her not to sacrifice anyone else. With that decided, there was no need for me to be lazing around here. I put on my shoes and slipped past Rina to exit the house, when she stopped me. I'm going too. Rina, shouldn't you go to school? This is way more important than school. Rina, you shouldn't come. If you get wrapped up in this too, then I think I might actually go crazy. Rina didn't move her arm, which was blocking my way. If Ketchi-kun disappeared as well, then I think I might actually go crazy too. So I won't let you go alone. Rina argued boldly as tears welled up in her eyes. I saw them, and I knew the strength of her resolve. Alright, let's go. Thank you, Rina. Rina nodded slightly but firmly and finally let down the arm blocking me. Let's go to Mion's house. I'll apologize for the crimes I've committed. Then we'll put an end to these twisted days. After that, I'll pray that once more we can return to those fun, lively days. With Rina following me, I left the house. In front of the house, there was a car waiting. It was Oishi-san.
Hey, good morning, Mabera-san. To you too, Ryugu-san. Together so early in the morning? You make me jealous.
What a truly praiseworthy man he was. If he had been lying in wait so early in the morning just to pressure me into talking, on this morning, though, maybe this was actually a good opportunity. You're from the police.
Oh, I have not introduced myself to you, Ryugu-san. Please excuse my rudeness. My name is Oishi from the Okinomiya Police Department. Pleased to meet you.
Are we telling Oishi-san? Yeah, I think my palm is enough punishment for your crime, Kichi-kun, but we should leave me chance to these people. Pain and sadness. I looked down as those emotions built up in my heart. Don't tell him anything. We'd have something to tell you, Oishi-san.
Well now, what about... Should we stand here and talk, or go inside the car?
In the car, please. I only continued to look down weakly. All I could do was be thankful for how dependable Rina was. At Rina's urging, I revealed everything to Oishi-san. The latter, while making sure to throw in murmurs that he was paying attention every now and then, took notes. We continued that way for a while.
How do you feel? Don't you feel a lot better now that you've told me?
Oichi-san asked, this while scratching his head with his ballpoint pen. Of course I don't feel better. The price that I had been paid up until now for me not owning up to my crimes had been so immense. But as long as that payment wasn't returned, the load on my chest could never be removed. His radio started to emit static. This is Kumatani! Oichi-san, over.
Yes, hello? This is Oishi.
We got news a new few minutes ago that she's been absent from school. No movement at the Sonozaki house. Our target is still on the premises.
Yes, good. Keep a close watch out.
Roger that. Cars 3 and 7 just arrived for support and we've returned to base. Also, I think the division chief is looking for you, Wishy-san. He keeps annoying me too, even though I keep telling him I'm trying to get in touch with you. What should I do?
No! If you're hard pressed for an answer, tell him you're actually under orders not to wake me from my morning nap.
Got it.
Bzz.
The radio grew silent.
Sorry about that. It was about work.
He just said that there was no movement at the Sonozaki house, didn't he?
Oh my, did it sound like that to you? This won't do. Please keep that a secret, alright? I don't have permission from the division chief to be making private inquiries like this.
Oichi-san had suspected Mian for a long time.
Nor the questioning witnesses or for the searching houses. We don't have permission for anything, really. The Sonozaki house's defenses set to protect the family members are also in full working condition. Without a warrant, we can't do anything about anything unless the crime happens right in front of us.
Oishi-san, could you be? Rina's tone of voice alone was enough to make her spite clear as she stared at Oishi-san. You can't step foot in the Sonozaki house? Were you trying to get Ketchikun to go in there instead? Rina, that's... What do you mean? This person, just as I thought.
This person, just as I thought, he plays
really dirty.
Stop! You're hurting my reputation. That said, I'm all ears to your explanation, okay?
Oishi-san lit a cigarette and responded to Rina wearing an expression implying he was calm and willing to let her commit slide. You can't get a warrant. But you've always had your eyes on Mi-chan because you thought she was suspicious.
Yes.
You plotted to incite Ketchikun and have him go to the Sonozaki house. Then, if something were to happen to him, you would have used that as an excuse to go in. Isn't that right? I only understood about half what Rina was saying. I knew, however, that Oishi-san had been trying to use me. Even if Ketchikun got hurt as a result, have you no shame? Is this how the police do things?
My. It seems we have an incredible detective on our hands. Oh my. Would you be interested in taking our exam? I'd gladly write a recommendation letter to get you into the detective division.
You're despicable. Rina spoke quietly, her words dripping with hostility.
I've been insulted in all kinds of ways in my life, but 1 or 2 words from a young girl is always the roughest for me.
Even so, I suppose I should thank you for not arresting Mi-chan yet.
Don't mention it.
Oishi-san seemed to be enjoying his exchange with Rina. He did it. The things this man thought were like a swamp, I could barely see past the surface. It reminded me again of how much I disliked him.
Now then, as two esteemed friends of me and Sonozaki, what do you plan on doing now? Will you wait kindly for me to go over the evidence and request a warrant?
No, we won't wait for that. We'll go and make Mi-chan surrender herself. That's right. If she turned herself in rather than be arrested, she might get a lighter sentence. At this point, perhaps that was the only pity I could find it in me to afford to her.
I see. I wonder if it will go that well. If you're careless, you too may face danger, you know.
Oishi-san was measuring our resolve, so in a strong voice I declared, We're fully prepared! Oishi-san gave us an unpleasant yet seemingly satisfied grin. It was then that I realized this man was trying to use us for his own convenience. If anything should happen to us, use that as an excuse. Though my greatest hope is that you will surround the place so that the criminal can't get away.
No! Ryuga-san, you're good at negotiating too. I'm throwing in the towel. I surrender.
What are you talking about? If the policemen surround Mi-chan's house, then that will be insurance for the worst case scenario. For the worst case. Plus, it would be another way for pressuring Mion to give herself up, wouldn't it? Oishi Takuma-chan! Oishi Takuma-chan!
Oishi Takuma...
Whatever. This is Kumatana. Good to go ahead.
Our two friends are going to play at the Sonozaki house. Make arrangements so that we can reinforce them if needed.
Roger! Their altogether too short conversation implied that our questioning was already a part of their plans.
Then let's get going. Want to buy some tea biscuits on the way there?
Neither Rina nor I went along with Oishi-san's stupid joke. Oishi stopped the car at a place where we always waited for Mion. Come to think of it, I've never been to Mion's house before. I've only heard that it's right down this road.
This is as far as I can take you. According to our information, there are quite a few security cameras set up at the premises. Still, don't worry. I've got a bunch of youngsters ready and waiting to slip past them and go in. We'll be monitoring the inside with one-way mics, so if you two give a loud scream, we'll know right away.
We'll persuade her for sure, so please be ready for her to turn herself in. In both of our eyes was determination. It was the only method available to us for lightening the sins of our good friend.
Be plenty careful, you hear? You probably don't believe it right now, but I don't want you two being sacrificed if at all possible.
You're right about that. With that rude response, we left the car. The clinging humidity and voices of the cicadas greeted us. I never have expected this would be happening today. Let's go. Kechi-kun. Rina took the lead and began to walk. Down the road I'd never been. Rina, you've been to Mion's house before, right? Yeah, a few times. It's a really big house. You could fit a mountain into their backyard, too. You could pick mushrooms and stuff, though there were fences everywhere. Big enough to fit a mountain. That was amazing. One of the three families controlling Hinamizawa and the head family at the Sonozaki clan. Perhaps there was something to be said about its magnitude. The path continued onward, level and uneventful. There were metal fences along its edges, and beyond them were woods with trees growing thickly. The fences were high, the tops of them bent inward, sticking out like sharp spears. Plus, there was dangerous-looking barbed wire wrapping around them. No one could look at them and not feel intimidated. In addition, there were signboards hung up here and there along the fence. Private property of the Sonozaki family, entrance forbidden. Beware of venomous snakes. Active security cameras. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million yen. Oh. Plush. Okay. There you go. 1 plush. Thank you, Doris. Intruders will be charged entry fee. This forest, or should I say mountain, is this all their yard? It's more like their domain. As you can see, it's private property, but nobody maintains it. The forest isn't really the kind that you can go hiking in. She could say that again. It really did feel like a neglected savage woodland. It was dark and damp and certainly not a forest that made you want to go for a nice walk. Maybe that's just what happens when a landowner has too much land. Like Kawishi said, there were security cameras hung up all over the place, though they had been weathered by wind and rain, casting doubt as to whether they were even functional. I wonder if Mion is was watching us as we come to her. I don't think she is. The only people living in Mi-chan's house are generally her and her grandma, after all. There's nobody to watch the cameras. What a useless security system. Well, Mi-chan's father seems like a pretty tough person to get along with. So whenever everyone in the family is getting together, the cameras are apparently working properly. That's right. Mion's father. He was a big shot Yakuza, wasn't he? Rina smoothly danced around the answer as she explained. It is getting intense. At last, a huge gate as big as I'd imagined appeared. Was she living by herself with her grandmother in a house with such a grand gateway? I wonder if she's here. Beep! The old buzzer made a dull sound. Was it cut off in the middle and not getting to the house? We waited long enough without a response for me to start thinking like that. However, we finally heard footsteps walking through gravel on the other side of the gate. I nervously balled my hands, my palms now sweating into fists. There was the clang of a bolt being released, and the gate opened slightly. The person peeking out of the gap was none other than Mion. Well, this is unusual. Aren't you two going to school? Mion didn't seem at all that surprised at visitors arriving in the morning, which wasn't a normal time. In fact, she almost seemed relaxed, as if she knew we were coming beforehand. We stayed home today. Kei-chan is one thing, but you too, Rina? You two are such troublemakers. Mion smiled lightly, in the way that the Mion we knew always did. Well, let's not just stand here. Come on in. She gestured for us to follow her. I hesitated for a moment, looking at Rina. Let's go. Rina smiled cheerfully, as if she were passing through the gate of a good friend's house, and then did just that. I rallied myself and then go through the gate too. On the other side, it hadn't been maintained very well, but it was clear that the lot was magnificently wide. It wasn't quite what you'd think of when you hear mansion, but it was very clearly a vast place. Was this the first time you've been here, Kei-chan? Yeah. This house is enormous. Steep thatched roofs aren't in fashion anymore. This place could be a tourist attraction. I want to rebuild it using totally average and boring reinforced concrete soon. Mion dryly smiled as she said that, then closed the gate and relocked the heavy bolt. Don't worry about it. Things have been dangerous lately. Gotta do at least this much during the daytime. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw the hint of a shadow in her smile. Well then, good sir and madam, I shall show you inside. Please, come this way. Mion bowed to us like a worker at a high-class hotel, then pivoted on her heel and began to walk. Rina gripped my stiffening arm lightly. Kichi-kun, you're too tense. We came to see Mi-chan, remember? You don't need to be that nervous. That's right. When I get nervous, I tend to let everything show on my face. I'll stop tensing up. Even if something were to happen, there were two of us. Oishi-san's subordinates were waiting outside the gate for us, too. There was nothing to worry about. After thinking about it that much, I realized my nervousness was already gone and laughed at myself. What's this? Mion, what's... Hi, username! Welcome to the stream! Welcome! Thanks for joining! I hope you're having a nice day today! Hello! I'm excited. I'm excited to drink coffee later. What's this? Mian, what's with this stone on top of the newspapers? It's in the way. There was a pile of newspapers on the floor of the entrance, and there was a large rock on top of them. I didn't understand why something like that was here. Rena noticed me looking at it questioningly and giggled. Rena, do you know? What is this? Some kind of good luck charm? If you don't really know, then feel free to move it out of the way and put your shoes there. Ketchi-kun. There's a nest of swallows right above that stone. Huh? Oh, you're right. This house is for people, but swallows still come in without permission to make nests. It must be like a tradition for them. Whenever spring comes, they always make a nest here. It's kind of annoying, though. Thank you for the subscription username! Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you! And thank you for staying with the UFO! Thank you! I appreciate it a lot, and I appreciate you. Thank you. In other words, it's a sign to not take off your shoes here. Because swallow poop could end up in them. I couldn't help but laugh at the silly contrivance. My laughter naturally spread to the other two. A really long time ago, the Sonozaki family apparently cultivated silkworms. Our ancestors would get all worked up over exterminating the swallows. When you think of it that way, maybe this is our just desserts. Anyway, come on in. The inside of the house wasn't very bright at all. It was dimly lit, in fact, but mysteriously, I could still feel an elegance to the place. Mian seemed to want a more modern building, but traditional houses like this aren't bad either. You're kidding, right? There's a terrible draft, and the winters are freezing. Don't go making my house into property of Flesh Attack. Okay. Let me fix this one. I'm sorry about my voice. I'm like really dry. My insides, like my mouth and stuff, are dry. My nose is kind of stuffy too. I don't know. I'm trying to. Hold on. Nope. My bad. There. Thank you for the plush attack. There's a terrible draft and the winters are freezing. Don't go making my house into property of cultural significance and getting in my way of renovations. Got it? What I want most is a house like yours, K-chan. I'm pretty jealous of it. It seems like it would be warm in the winter. Oh, but snowfall seems like it would be a problem. Snowfall's a problem? Does Hinamazawa get that much snow? Our latitude is south of Kanto, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't this region warm? You don't know, Kichi-kun? Hinamazawa is in an area that gets heavy snowfall. When we get a lot, everyone gets buried. Sometimes you can't even get out of your house. Sometimes your car gets totally buried too and you can't find where it is. I wasn't aware of that. Hinamazawa, was that bad place in the winter? Come to think of it, my dad. He said something like, this place got plenty of snow, so we could have fun building igloos. Still, your front door getting buried, not being able to find your car? That's way too much snow. You remember from geography class, right? The western side of Japan gets cold winds from Asia. We're different from those softies, protected by the mountains, nice and warm by the Pacific Ocean. I'm totally okay with being a softie and nice and warm. I hate the cold. We'll have to have a training camp to get K-Chan used to the cold this winter then. No way, no way. There's no way that's happening. I hate the cold. I hate training camps too. And I hate them even more put together. Mion laughed more uproariously than she ever had, then told us she'd bring out some tea and left her seat for the moment. Oh, bless you. You gonna sneeze again? You're making a face. Excuse me. Still, there's a lot of fun things to do in the winter. I bet our club will be a blast then. Our club continuing activities through the winter sounds totally horrible, like swimming in the cold or marching in the snow. When did we turn into Mount Redhorn? Yeah, there were definitely a lot of tough punishment games for the winter season. One time she made us have a Rio carnival in the schoolyard while snow was falling. I see the terror of our club cared not for the season. The victor would be decided by who could best adapt to the winter-only events. We do snowball fights and shaved ice eating contests and treasure hunts in the snow. Wait, why is everything outside? Why can't we play tabletop games in a nice warm room while it's snowing? Whoa, Kichi-kun, if you're saying things like that, then you're gonna lose a lot this winter. We'll have lots of punishment games and Rena won't lose. How? Don't give me that how. I settled things with a cross chop to the head. You're sure having fun. Our walls aren't very thick, so be careful not to go flying through any, okay? The paper sliding door opened and Mion returned with a pot and a complete tea set. Do you want some sesame seeds on your rice? Sorry we don't have much in the way of bean paste or other good stuff. It's okay. We didn't really come here to drink tea anyway. And with those words, the smile disappeared from Rena's face. Ah, she did it. That one careless statement reminded us of what we had nearly been able to forget. I had wanted to enjoy this peaceful time for a little longer, but we put an end to that with those honestly careless words. When she noticed the smile disappear from Rena's expression, Mion too changed hers. It was as if the cheerful air that was like a warm spring day until a moment ago had slipped through the cracks in the paper door and altogether disappeared. There was no point in regretting it now. We did not come here today to chat and enjoy ourselves. Mion silently poured the tea. During that time, both Rena and I sat kneeling without uttering a word. Here you are! Drink up! We couldn't even mutter a word of acknowledgement at those natural words of courtesy. There's no poison in it or anything. Do you distrust us? There's no poison in it or anything. Do you distrust me that much? That's upsetting. There's no poison in it. I don't know. Young gave a bitter smile at that and let her shoulders droop. We all remained silent. We remained silent, hoping that someone else would speak up first. That was, however, the one thing we didn't want to do, and so we sat for a long time. At last, Mion smiled scornfully and opened her mouth to speak. Hey, now, Kei-chan, Rena, you're the guests. Didn't you come here for something? If you don't speak up first, this old man won't know what to do. Rena and I exchanged glances, and we both resigned ourselves. Rena opened her mouth to speak first, so I stopped her. Kechi-kun? It's okay. I needed to come here. Let me talk first. Okay, I understand. What would Kei-chan have to tell me? Please give me your daughter's hand in marriage, maybe? Can't do that. My little Rena and Kei-chan aren't meant for each other. Go wash your face with miso soup and try again later. Afterwards, I thought her mean remarks were Mion's own way of showing consideration. Mion had said those mean things in a totally normal voice, and it drained the tension from my shoulders. Mion, first, I have something to apologize for.
You do? What for?
Mian pretended that she didn't know what I was talking about, but I'd clearly gotten my point across. Well, on the night of the one in Nagashi, the ritual storehouse behind the shrine, I went in there. I could see Mian's expression immediately become harder. I knew it was somewhere I wasn't supposed to go, but it was just supposed to be a little bit of exploration. We didn't mean anything by it. Even so, I still shouldn't have done it. So I apologize. I'm sorry. To display my deepest sincerity, I pressed my forehead to the table. Yeah, it is. I pressed my forehead to the table. I meant it as my way of prostrating myself. I figured it wouldn't feel sincere enough if I raised my head right away, so I left it there on the table for a while. Mion didn't say anything. With my face down, I couldn't tell what sort of expression Mion had. Only the voices of the cicadas filled the room. Mixed with them, I could hear the sound of the clock ticking. That was all. When I started to struggle to breathe from having my head down for so long, Mion told me to stop. You got me there. I didn't expect you to pitch it to me straight. You've got me on the ropes. I looked up to see that Mion's face was calm, but she was smiling faintly. If you understand that even though it was only a casual exploration for you, Kei-chan, that there are a lot of people who think it's no laughing matter, then it's okay. There's an old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It's been days since then. It may be too late, but I apologize. What I did was wrong. Please, forgive me. I could feel pitiful tears welling up within me. If I had done this sooner, maybe nothing terrible would have happened. It's okay. If you know what you did was bad, then that's enough, right? Mion spoke like it was someone else's problem, and I wasn't happy about it. Mi-chan, Kechi-kun is apologizing seriously. I think maybe you should respond seriously as well. I am being serious, though. Do I not look serious to you, Rina? You don't. Rina was giving her tit for tat, and so for the room's atmosphere quickly began to grow sharper. She was right. Even though I came here to speak from the heart like this, it's felt like she hasn't been taking this seriously. Obviously, Rina isn't fond of that. Kechi-kun, you can get up now. Let's tell her everything. That looks like what Mi-chan wants, too. I had known it would turn out like this from the beginning. Hadn't I come here prepared for that? I mustered my willpower and bit my lip. Mion, you called Rika-chan and Satoko to the day before last, right? I don't remember doing so. If you have a reason to think so, could you let me hear it? It was evening before dinner time. Rika-chan should have come here, bringing a big bottle of soy sauce, to have you share some with her. Mion was trying to keep from showing any reaction, but I didn't miss her eyelid twitching just a little bit. Why do you think that? It's not hard to understand, Mi-chan. You saw it too, didn't you? Rika-chan's room? Mion put a finger to her forehead and acted like she was thinking. There was chilled tofu, but no soy sauce. Plus the big bottle of soy sauce that should have been under the sink was nowhere to be found. What? Is that why she would have come here? Mion, drop the act. You wrote it yourself on the notice, didn't you? That you'd share your soy sauce? Mion scratched her head. I heard her ever so faintly click her tongue. It was as though we found out she'd purposely given too little exchange to a servant. That's all I could feel from her. Then, Mi-chan, Rika-chan, you hid her. Rina hesitated for a moment. I could tell that she didn't want to use the word erased, and that she was struggling to find another word. That was really supposed to be the end, wasn't it? For you, anyway. What are you talking about? You didn't foresee that Rika-chan would tell Satoko-chan that she was going to your house, did you, Mi-chan? Then Satoko-chan called. Might Rika be imposing on you? Yeah, probably just like that. You sound just like her. Mi-chan, you were in a bit of a bind then, because someone knew that Rika-chan had come here. So you decided to lure Satoko-chan here too. Lure her out? Like how, I wonder? Mion prodded Rina on, as if trying to get to the good part of an interesting story. I, however, knew I had been watching Mion change the whole time. She was relentlessly twirling her fingers. She had clearly lost her calm. Of course, it was really a slight thing, and only I, who had been watching her this whole time, would have known. Mion was panicking. What Rina was saying must have been a bullseye. It probably went like this. Satoko, I actually made too much dinner today, so why not come over and eat? Rika-chan came earlier and already ate some. Something like that. Scratch. Mion's nails dug into her knee. Heh. There's no recordings of the phone conversations or anything, so how do you know that much? I know it because the dinner that Satoko-chan made for the two of them was plastic wrapped in their refrigerator and hadn't been touched. For a few moments, Mion's face was frozen in utter amazement. She looked like she couldn't believe that this person in front of her was Rina. With just that to go on, how did you even guess that what we said over the phone? It's a long explanation, so I'll get to the point. The contents of that refrigerator provided a vivid account of what you said over the phone when you lured her out. Mion's jaw remained on the floor. That was the only way I could describe her face. That's... I had no idea I had such an incredible detective right next to me the whole time. I can't believe you figured out everything, down to the phone conversation, just from what was inside the fridge. You've got me there. You've got me. You've got me. As if a dam had burst, Mion convulsed into laughter. Her laughter, though, definitely didn't make us want to laugh as well. Mion grew tired of her dumb laughter, heaved a big sigh, and scratched her head. It almost seemed like Mion had lost a detective punishment game for the club or something, and her punishment had been decided. Oh, how fun that would have been if it were true. An incredible detective? Mi-chan, you're the one who guessed that Oishi-san told us. He called me an incredible detective too. As soon as she heard Oishi-san's name, Mion's eyes began to display panic more clearly so that anyone would be able to tell. Mion, the police have suspected you for a long time now. Oishi-san's officers have had the house under observation so that they could break in at any time. Mion attempted to feign calm, but it looked like she was having a hard time with that. Part of her couldn't believe that the police had her surrounded, and she closely examined Rina's facial expression. However, she couldn't detect a hint of falsehood. Finally, Mion seemed to accept the fact that the police were encircling her house. Was the mayor, Mi-chan too? Were Tomitaki-san and Takano-san? You as well? Excuse me. Mion didn't answer our rapid-fire questions. I could clearly see impatience in her eyes, which were still feigning calm. At last, Mion, who had been sitting there lazily, readjusted her cushion and sat herself upright. At that moment, the atmosphere in the room changed completely. Mion's expression also changed. The impatience and wonderment of her expression disappeared, and she began to so solemn you would think she was about to conduct a tea ceremony. I could sense it. It was now, in this moment, Mion had ceased to be Mion, but had changed into Mion Sonozaki, the current heir to the Sonozaki house. The solemn atmosphere about her was clearly abnormal, and was entirely different from that of the Mion that I knew. Now I could believe it. Now I could believe that she was the young leader who commanded the entire Sonozaki clan. Myung quietly placed both her hands on the tatami mat and gave a beautifully elegant bow as if this really were a tea ceremony, and named herself. Okay, I need more water and I will be right back. What's water time? Sorry, I was munching on something. But I hear music. We meet for the first time. I am the current heir to the Sonozaki house. My name is Mion. Mion's movements were so elegant they could cut, and we couldn't even answer her. All Rina and I could do was watch, baffled at her actions, which we could never imagine the normal her doing. I would like to welcome you to the Sonozaki main house today. I will greet you all in the place of our leader, or you. It seems as though you have various things you would like to ask. If I can be of any assistance, then I would like to answer without concealing anything. What? What did Mion just say? Mion said she would answer anything we asked? Thank you for the water, Maichi. I think... Did I? Just in case again. There was a strong light of resolve in her eyes. It's really alright if we ask anything then? I shall tell you everything I know. That is why you have come here after all. Rina and I exchanged glances. There was a mountain of things we wanted to ask Mion. However, we hesitated for a moment on what we should ask first. The first question Rina gave was extremely abstract, but it was the question everyone wanted to know right now. Why would you do this? That was what I wanted to ask as well. Why would you do this? That didn't only go for Rika-chan and Satoko. It went for the mayor, Takano-san, and Tomotaki-san as well. No, even further back, for all the incidents that had been occurring every year. For a little while, Mion couldn't respond. Right when we realized that the question was too vague and tried to put it into more concrete terms, she finally opened her mouth to speak. To answer that question, it will take some time. If that is acceptable, however, then I would by all means like you to hear it. Hi, Psycho! Welcome to the stream! Welcome. Thank you for joining. I hope you're having a nice day today. Hello. It's Rippa. It's nice seeing you. Welcome to Twitch. I hope you're having a nice day today. Hello. She spoke clearly. She spoke with a clarity that a grandmother might use when telling a story from a long time ago. Do you know the Hinamizawa village used to be called Onigafuji village? Rina nodded lightly, then shot me a glance. Yeah! Welcome to Twitch! I hope you enjoy your stay on Twitch. It's pretty fun. If you do a follow, you can play with my points. These headphones are like destroying my hair. Because my hair is so puffy. Sorry, water. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it a lot, and welcome to the UFO on Twitch. Thank you. I appreciate it. Rina nodded lightly, then shot me a glance asking me if I did. I returned her nod. Hinamizawa was once... Hi, Vampire Bite! Welcome to the stream! Welcome! Thanks for joining! I hope you're having a nice day today! Hello! And yeah, the music is good. It's good. Hinamizawa was once called Onigafuji village, yes. I heard all about it that night from Takano-san in the ritual storehouse. They firmly believed that the demon blood ran through their veins and cut off all contact with the outside world. They were worshipped by those in the villages at the foot of the mountains, and treated like transcendents, those capable of magic. That's right. Our ancestors in Onikafuji village were proud transcendents descended from the demons. Those in the villages at the foot of the mountains worshipped and honored them. Nevertheless, that all decayed with the end of the Tokugawa era. The black ships arrived, the era of the samurai ended, the era of the national isolation ended, and the tradition of worshipping Onikafuji village quickly disappeared. Those things that linger from the past were all to be detested. That was the kind of era it became. What? Are you saying you can't search for me on YouTube? The Meiji era began and the name of Onikafuji village with its long history was forcibly changed to Hinamizawa village. I have heard the Meiji government strongly wished to erase the old customs. The abolition of feudal domains and the establishment of prefectures. An era had begun, seeing Japan sprinting up the stairs that were beyond their means to try and reach the same level of the rest of the world. All things in the Western style were to be extolled, while all old traditional things were to be scorned. That was the sort of era it was. Our ancestors in Onikafuji village were proud transcendents, descended from the demons. Onikafuji village disappeared in a flash. At last, Japan, provoked by the great European powers colonizing countries in Asia, one by one began a policy to increase its wealth and military power so that it could stand as a global power in its own right. Conscription began, and they won war after war. The First Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War, and until the Pacific War broke out. They recklessly climbed the staircase towards modernization. At the time, Onikafuji village had already lost its impenetrability. The villagers once worshipped the transcendents were now on the receiving end of the inhuman treatment. The sacred Onikafuji village had been frownously labeled an isolated village of those afflicted with incurable diseases, a mere shadow of its former self, and stood on the precipice of an era of hardship. Thus began the harsh days where one would suffer unreasonable discrimination just because people knew one was from Onikafuji. The children in the village at the foot of the mountain were taught not to go near Hinamizawa because filthy germs were rampant there. Children who had come into contact with children in Hinamizawa would cry and wail as their parents purified the spot where they touched by rubbing salt on it. One of the adults said to the children that if you got lost in Hinamizawa, you would be kidnapped by demons, cut up into pieces, and devoured. Never, ever going near the terrifying village of the man-eating demons. That's what he taught them. Another said that during a famine long ago, the people of the Hinamizawa gathered up all the corpses they discarded into the dried riverbeds, then cooked and ate them in order to survive. Groundless stories, but said in such seriousness. Baseless slander added to baseless slander, making Onikafuji village's historically accurate, thrilling history all the more believable. Perhaps the chain of undue discrimination was a manifestation of the people's anxiety towards the uncertain times. Of course, the story didn't end only with the perspective of children. If anyone found out you were from Onikafuji, you would be turned down from any job you applied for. People would even go back on engagements and marriage proposals. As for the marriages where one partner had lied about it, as soon as the truth got out, they were made to divorce. It even caused trials. They would appeal that one came from wasn't an important enough reason to divorce. They would, however, lose their case. Lying about one's birthplace apparently constitutes a heavy act of misinterpretation in marriage. Misrepresentation. That's terrible. I've heard about such discrimination towards those in small villages in civics class. Just because others knew you were from a tiny hamlet, you would be subjected to every societal disadvantage there was, a modern form of bullying, though I only memorized that because it was going to be on a test one time. I recall being suspicious about it, and unable to believe such discrimination occurred in modern Japan. Well, I suppose I can't say that it weren't for asking for it. Our ancestors were proud of the demon blood flowing through them. They lived their lives boasting about it and scorning those at the foot of the mountain after all. They struck fear into the villagers down there and their mystique and demanded gifts of dread and tribute. With that, Mian smiled for the first time, albeit in self-mockery. During the Pacific War, despite the slogans that all this country was acting as one, those from Hinamizawa continued to suffer all manner of discrimination. There were too many ways to count. They would send their husbands and sons to war, and the women on the home front would suffer greatly too. My grandmother remembers it well. She remembers it being a difficult time. Even that bitterly long war. Hi, Branchan! Welcome to the stream! Welcome! Thanks for joining! I hope you're having a nice day today! Hello! I'm doing well. We're on the last chapter. Unless there's 13 chapters in this, then I don't know. Even that bitterly long war, however, finally ended in 1945. Hinamizawa had lost many male hands, but at last their fathers and husbands and sons returned to them. Of course, there were also many who didn't come back. Nevertheless, for those in Hinamizawa who were at their limits, barely able to maintain the village without the men, their return was a very happy thing. MacArthur's GHQ set to work on drastically improving mindsets and strove for the abolition of unfair discrimination. Thank you! It was nice seeing you, Branchan. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. They could feel day breaking on the dismal night that was the previous era. Hinamizawa was on the verge of turning into a ghost town. Those in the village started to say that they should rebuild it once again, and got to work trying to make the village even a little more plentiful. During that time, someone appeared who built up a fortune through a vast number of dealings in the black market. That was Mion's grandfather, the husband of the elderly current family's leader, Sohei Sonazuki. Sohei said that he managed food warehouse in Harbin after being dispatched in the Chinese mainland. When it was time to pull out, he conspired with his superiors and comrades and stole a great deal of the army's canned goods. He hid them somewhere in the Seto Inland Sea and sold them widely at a high price on the black market, thus earning a fortune. Sohei didn't spread the fortune for his own pleasure either. He entrusted the entire amount to his wife, the head of the Sonozaki house. Let's revive the ruined village. All who live here are our family, and this fortune is our collective property. So he proclaimed to the grandmother, the current head of the family, that vast fortune was a huge reason why Hinamizawa was revitalized after the war. I see. With that, Hinamizawa came back to life, and that's how the Sonozaki family had established its current prosperity. Of course, there were many people who begrudged the money coming from the black market, but the villagers no longer minded it. They succeeded at one business venture after another. Those who had succeeded freely supported those who followed them. The giant family of Hinamizawa, tied together with strong bonds, kept on expanding its influence. The Sonozaki family, the center of everything, would be exalted for time in the minds behind Hinamizawa's revitalization. The person at the middle of all of it was your Nana, Mei-chan. That's amazing! What a great success! Mian looked like she was honestly happy Rina had praised her. However, around 1955, the wind started blowing in the other direction again, because of the canned flesh incident. Canned flesh? It sounded so hideous that just hearing it made me nauseous. Someone naming himself as my grandfather, Sohei Sonozaki Superior, confessed that those canned goods had been human flesh. Hinamizawa, a village in which demons lived and ate humans, they were just about to wipe away that cursed stigma. The light they had finally started to see in their peaceful lives grew hazy and disapproved, and disappeared. The shocking truth has revealed by his former superior. Hi, Cheer! Welcome to the stream! Welcome! Thanks for joining! I hope you're having a nice day today! Hello! It's the stolen provisions from the old Japanese army that had been a huge cornerstone for Hinamizawa's revival had been canned human flesh. Why were there cans like that? Wasn't Sohei just the manager of food warehouses? His superior revealed that Sohei Sonozaki did not have the job of managing the food. In reality, Sohei's job during the war had been to exterminate pestilence mice and to transport the corpses to those with infectious diseases. It had been unfair treatment, and all because of the lowliness of its organs. As a result, though, he had returned safely without having been sent to the front lines or being detained. Perhaps that was the only fortunate thing that happened to him. Finally, Sohei was enlisted as an assistant at a military medical institution. There, however, he found something even worse than the low-score and depressing customs of Onikafuji village and the research they were carrying out. Could that have been, well, you know, the bacteriological corpse in the old Japanese army or whatever? Kichi-kun, you've heard of that? What could it be? I was pretty sure it was Unit 731. It was a nightmare unit that devoted itself to researching terrifying bacteriological weapons to break the deadlock of war. They used many innocent people as fodder for horrible human experiments. They methodically observed how many days a new strain would take to kill the victims, how many days it would be when injected, how many days it would be when swallowed. They dissected many people to find that out. Sometimes they wouldn't bother waiting until they were dead and dissected them until they were still alive. They would strap them into centrifuges while still alive and crush them in decompression chambers while still alive. When a live human decompresses, all the holes in their body get pushed outwards, and their intestines get pushed out of their anus like a snake winding out of it. Ew. I have a feeling I saw something like that on a documentary one time. That makes me sick, and they still hate Hinamizawa, huh? You said it. Mion agreed with me, giving a faint, sad smile. It wasn't much in the way of communication, but for some reason I was happy to have it right now. The unit Sohei was indeed way higher kind of research than that. They were researching concrete methods for reducing the difficulty of delivering food on the battlefield. The military's designs at the start of the war completely fell apart, and a chronic food shortage broke out all over the battlefront. The food shortage led to malnutrition, and as their natural resistances lowered, the soldiers fell to one disease after another. Spirit and morale lowered as well. They wouldn't be able to maintain the forces at this rate. Apparently that's where the research started. At first, it was to find methods of delivering food to the battlefields. It was very broad and included things from violent methods like stealing it from citizens to survival methods like how to cook unfamiliar insects and plant life. As if they were working out the details, they kept straying off course and going out of control, until finally they knocked down a door called Taboo. What do you think the easiest source of protein on a battlefield is? Rina and I knew the answer without being told, so we didn't answer. That's right. They were researching ways to handle using humans as food, fighting onwards, sometimes eating the flesh of enemies and sometimes that of allies, became the ultimate service paid to their country. They were deathly serious about this doctrine. It really is a riot. My grandfather was despised as someone who ate human flesh, and yet they had gone above and beyond that. Apparently he always thought about it too. Even if he was vulgar man-eating demon, they were far more ugly demons than he, so no matter how much he was scorned, he wouldn't put it up with it. At last, they had a handful of test prototypes. When the soldiers learned it was human flesh, however, the scientists couldn't make anyone eat it, so it was apparently sent to the front lines. The cans were labeled meat substitutes, and so that they wouldn't accidentally eat it themselves, they stamped the bottoms with a circle. The starved soldiers on the front lines apparently loved all the prototypes they were sent. Among them, those who cooked in the soy sauce, like it was sukiyaki, loved it the most. Come on, Mi-chan, stop. I'm getting sick to my stomach. Mina really was pale-faced, and she looked like she was having difficulty continuing to sit on her knees. Mian looked like she had more to say, but she sighed lightly and stopped there. Then, those canned goods your grandpa brought back. I don't know if it's true. Sohei denied it was human flesh up until the day he died. However, those who begrudged Hinamizawa's sudden revival called him a savage for making a fortune from selling human flesh, and the villagers began to be scorned again. They returned to a time where children could be jeered at and have rocks thrown at them. The stifling silence came back. What a seriously hopeless and sad story it was. They discriminated, were discriminated against, discriminated and were discriminated against. Why must they attach worth and rank to it? Why can't they live without looking down on people? Why can't everyone enjoy life together? I didn't know. My grandmother, the family head, once told the children of the village this. If they throw a stone at one of you, then two of you must throw stones back. The children asked her, what if they threw stones at two of us? Of course, the answer was simple. If they throw stones at two of you, throw them back with 4. If they chase 8 of you with sticks, drive them off with 16. If they slander 30 of you, yell back with 60. Finally, the children asked, what if we're attacked by 1,000 people? Even that answer was simple. If 1,000 people attack you, then everyone in Hinamazawa will stand up against them. It was a manifesto to spur people into action. My grandmother rose up not only as the leader of the Sonozaki house, but as the mother of Hinamazawa. It was halfway through 1955. It was a time when riots over the treaty with the U.S. were rampant, a time of battle and action. The people of Hinamazawa joined together and fought, treating unfair discrimination towards one as a crime against them all. It didn't matter whether that one was a child or an adult. If they heard that a child had been told off, then everyone would crowd the house of the perpetrator, acting as a whole. If they heard an adult had been treated unfairly, men and women, young and old, would all band together and stand up against it. If you meddled with people from Hinamazawa, you would be in trouble. They probably figured that if they could make others think that, they'd win. Kei-chan, do you remember how many people came to help you when you got involved with those delinquents in town? I recalled how much of an impression it had left on me. That the people of Hinamazawa boldly came to my rescue, yet the people of Okinomiya averted their eyes as they wouldn't get involved. My grandmother fought, and my parents carried on the fight. At last, peace returned to Hinamazawa. Of course, that peace had been placed on a razor's edge. When you consider the previous 100 years of history, the tranquility now can only be called a chance interval, standing on uneven scales. Why? Could I really have an opinion on such a long, difficult history when I hadn't moved here more than a year ago? Yet, I said it anyway. Why can't everyone just live in peace? What happened to those old stories of Oyashiro-sama that I heard from Takano-san? Man and demon joined hands and lived together in harmony. Didn't Oyashiro-sama remain in this world to watch over that? It's a fairy tale. I mean, that even if those people and the demons were real, the Oyashiro-sama who mediated between them wasn't. Is that why Oyashiro-sama's curse happens? A cool gust of wind blows in from the outside, fluttering Mion's beautifully clear hair. Mion kept her refreshing smile. Without answering, it didn't even change her expression, but even that became a silent answer. So that Hinamazawa village might once more be like Onigufuji village, so that we may again be a sacred existence worthy of worship. That was the earnest wish of our ancestors in Onigufuji. This is a game! It's a visual novel! I do plan on playing games. I've been playing Genshin. I've been playing Spooky. I've been playing other things, and I've been thinking about playing stuff, and I can't say anything because we're having a meeting today. So, but we're discussing things for future events, so I'll be able to have a schedule properly. I did play Shotgun Witch. I wasn't very good at Shotgun Witch, though. Those who inherit the demon. For generations, the Sonozaki family has had a custom of including characters for demon in the leaders' names. If you write out My name on your hand, it should appear plain as day. I trace out the word Mian on the palm of my hand. Oh, she's right. The character for demon is in there. Not only in my name either, the demon is engraved on my body as well. When she said that, she quietly rose and began to lay her hand on her clothing. It's okay, Mi-chan. You don't need to show us, okay? Thank you. With just that exchange, I guess what she meant. Most likely, somewhere on her body, there was a permanent seal, such as a tattoo or marking, that proved that she inherited the demon. Mian didn't sit back down. She smoothly opened the paper door onto the porch. A refreshing breeze began to cleanse the damp air filling the room. Mian quietly gazed out at the wide yard for quite a while. On her shoulders was something I could never imagine the normal Mian carrying. It was the heavy, truly heavy history of Hinamizawa, no, of Onigafuchi, weighing down on them. What kind of words could I possibly say to a Mian like this? Rina wasn't saying anything to her either. Only the voices of the cicadas drowned out the silence. At last, after a long period of nothing, Mian murmured. The serial incidents happening over the past 5 years. I was directly related to some of them, and indirectly to others. Some were not the Sonozaki family, but were rather related to the others, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furuta family. I think I was the center of them all. She said it all without turning around with her back to us. At some point, her tone of voice had gone back to being the Mian she knew. I have faith in what I've done, and don't feel any guilt. If I did, perhaps it would be that I will have to leave the stage before the heir is decided. If I am caught and tried in a court of law, then I suppose that's how it works nowadays. Being able to retire with Hinamizawa at the most peaceful has been in 100 years could be the happiest thing that's ever happened to any of the Sonozaki leaders of past generations. Mian leaned that shoulder against the paper door, then slid down and flopped to the ground. It was an act of such resignation that just seeing it made me hurt inside. The numerous terrible crimes Mian had been a part of suddenly began to fade from my mind. Hey Mian, I don't care what happens after this. Can't you just try to struggle as much as you can? Try to run away? As soon as I began to think that way, Rina's ringing voice filled the room. But Rika-chan and Satoko-chan, you killed them, didn't you, Mi-chan? The sharp points of her words stabbed into my chest despite not being directed at me. I'm not saying that it's okay if you killed other people. Regardless, Mi-chan, you killed Rika-chan and Satoko-chan. Rina's words were more biting than I had ever heard. Even now that we knew all the heavy history pressing down on Mian's shoulders, she had criticized her for killing our friends. Just as I bear the duty of the Sonozaki family, Rika-chan bore the duty of the Furuta family. That duty was to protect the ritual storehouse. My chest tightened. I learned around last year that Rika-chan had said something about it. The bars on the storehouse door were too heavy for her, and she wanted to change them to a simpler lock and key. Even the priest before her had complained about it being too heavy. He was very aware of how hard it was for Rika-chan. I will make sure to guard it, so I want to replace the lock with something lighter. I replied on the behalf of the Sonozaki family leader. Ever since the string of freak deaths incidents, there seemed to be people who are insolent towards Oishiro-sama, so you shouldn't replace the lock with a simpler one. That said, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, Old Man Kimiyoshi, if it's that difficult for you, Rika-chan, then I think it's okay to replace the lock, he said. The very fact that it was locked with a key was an indication of it being somewhere you mustn't enter. There's nobody bad enough to break through it and go inside, he said. Even if we were alike as leaders, I couldn't find it in me to argue with Old Man Kimiyoshi, since I owed him so much. In the end, we decided to change out the lock on the storehouse and switch it to a really cheap and light padlock. Old man, is this really alright? Nana says that if possible, we should keep the lock the same.
It'll be alright. You're quite the worrywart. If something happens, this old man will take all the responsibility.
Do you promise? You mean that you will take the responsibility of the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, right? You should be all well aware of how sacred things inside really are.
It's okay. There aren't any bad cats in Hinamazawa who would open the lock and break in. Meow meow.
Oh, sobs escaped from my mouth. Something hot and wet dripped down in spades and fell onto the tatami mat. I had already heard of the thieves entering the ritual storehouse during the Wananagashi festival. There were 4 of them. We decided to act within the day. At the same time, we needed to demand that the ones who allowed the thieves to break in, Rika-chan and of the Furuta family, and Old Man Kimiyoshi take responsibility. My tears dripped and dropped, until just now I had decided that it was Mion's fault, that she killed Rika-chan and the others. That was wrong. The one who killed them wasn't Mion, it was me. I might as well have killed them. Kechi-kun? I had a chance to stop this tragedy from happening, and yet I didn't. Cheap curiosity got the better of me, and I didn't. If, at the time, I had stopped us from sneaking into the ritual storehouse, Rika-chan and the others wouldn't have had to die. If I had, then nothing would have happened. We wouldn't be spending our days having lots of fun like we always did. I was an idiot. If by shedding tears I could take it all back, then I would have filled up the room with them. However, such a meager act wouldn't be enough to redeem myself for the crime I've committed. Kei-chan, it's not your fault. Mion greatly began to speak to me as if trying to reason with me. As the leader of the Sonozaki family, I needed to act. But given the history of the Sonozaki family, thinking about it now, it's no big deal. Maybe I should have saved my friends, even if it meant casting all that aside. I yielded to it. And that's why I killed those 2. I, Mion Sonozaki, and nobody else killed them. I had hundreds of chances to stop it, but I didn't stop it. I gave in to the easy role that was handed to me, and abandoned all thought of fighting for my friends. So this is my crime. I killed them. Mion Sonozaki, with these hands, killed them, and nothing whatsoever changed. Nothing! Her masochistic laughter was sad, especially because Mion boasted in club that she would turn the tables on whatever predicaments presented themselves. It was so painful. Still, Mi-chan, you saved one person of your own volition. Eh? As I looked at her surprised, Rina stuck her finger right at my forehead. You left Kechi-kun alive. As strong as you are, Mi-chan, it would have been no trouble for you, but you didn't kill him. That's right. Mion was so cunning that nobody would stand up to her. Even in our club, she had seriously tried to kill me. I would have been dealt with on the very first night. So many people have been sacrificed, but I was always left out in the cold. When did I first realize it? Even though people were disappearing one after the other, for some reason, I had this vague belief that only I would be left alive. Why didn't I kill him? As a demon, I can't even begin to guess. Maybe Mion had some reason she didn't want to kill you. What is that supposed to mean? Shh. Mion put a finger to her lips to say that Rina didn't need to talk. Is Oishi waiting outside? Yes. Any way out? No. They said they have the place surrounded. It seemed like they called a lot of cars over the radio. I think they have your entire property surrounded. Mion felt silent. Rina's merciless words felt cruel, but they weren't meant to be. Maybe they were trying to lessen her good friend's pain, if only by a little. Maybe they were considerate, like she was trying to help. Please, turn yourself in. Mion didn't open her mouth, but she smiled just a little. We'll go with you. We'll never leave a friend by herself. Crying children and Rina are the only things I can't beat. She rose, scratching her head. Her face had turned entirely to that of the usual Mion. I'm well aware of how serious my own crimes are. Even if they accept me turning myself in, I'll probably never be able to come back here. I couldn't say anything. The number of deaths Mion was involved in was just too large, so much so that maybe recommending that she turn herself in was, in a way, extremely cruel. So, I'd like to hear one last selfish request. What is it? 30 minutes is fine. Just let me have 30 minutes sometime alone with K-chan. Huh? My name suddenly came up, and it looked like I was the only one surprised by that. Kechi-kun, is that okay with you? If you don't want to, then I won't make you. You're right. It's okay if you don't want to. If you don't... You're right. You're right. It's okay if you don't want to. After all, I'm a demon. And K-chan is a bona fide human who moved here from somewhere else. For us to be compatible, as long as Oyashiro-sama doesn't exist to mediate, simply isn't possible. There was no reason for me to hesitate. Mion had been engulfed by heavy unstoppable tradition. Right now, the duty of handling this had fallen to me and me alone. In fact, with me cornered, it would have been okay for her to blame me. However, Mion didn't say one word of blame. Far from it, I was guilty of the same crime, and she let me go. Amidst of the fate she could not oppose, she saved me alone. I didn't know whether I should be thankful for that. Thinking upon it now, I didn't know how much easier it would be if I were to be granted the same punishment as Rika-chan and the others. The only thing I knew for sure was that I had an equal duty to bear the sins that Mion shouldered, so when it came to Mion's last request, there was no reason for me to hesitate. Sure, it's fine. Thank you. I'd like to thank you too, Kechi-kun. Rina stood up. It looked like she would keep her promise with Mion and leave. It's fine, Rina. You can wait right here. I just want to go around the yard with K-chan. You're bored. You can go to my room. You can read any manga you like. And if there are any volumes you like, you might as well take them. I don't want to. Mi-chan's books belong to Mi-chan. Rina couldn't bring them back home with her so freely. You're such a good kid, only at times like this. Mion took Rina's head and rubbed it violently like I always did. Okay, let's go, K-chan. I began to walk after Mion, who headed for the hallway, when Rina silently stopped me. Take care of Mi-chan. Yeah, Mi-chan really does believe she won't ever be able to come back. I didn't know how much about laws, but with as many deaths as she'd been involved in, the chances of her escaping a heavy punishment seemed non-existent. Watch out, so that you don't make her lose her temper, okay? Mion might not surrender herself to justice, so I might have to put an end to it myself. Rina had already thought that far ahead. Right, I won't let that happen. Rina rubbed at her tears, which had fallen without me noticing. Okay, then go after her. I nodded and followed Mion, who had disappeared out the front door. I could clearly hear Rina sobbing from the other side of the paper door. Why was Mi-chan made a successor to demons? Maybe it just had to happen that way, but it's just so awful. Something's hot burned down my cheeks. They were my tears. I fiercely wiped them away. This was the last time I could offer to Mion, so I absolutely didn't want to let her see my tears during it. Mion was already waiting outside the front door. I put on my shoes, tapped my toes against the floor a few times and left, and Mion timidly came over. Why is she turning all red at a time like this? Can I hold your arm? It was such a modest request. I don't mind. With my permission, her face lit up with glee, like a child being given a toy, and took my arm. Do you get kind of nervous with your arm through mine? You're not thinking, for example, that I suddenly put you in a world-class joint lock or anything. You two say the same things. I don't think that. At all. Back when, nothing had gone wrong yet. During those nostalgic days of the bustling commotion at Angel Court, I counted back and was amazed. It had only been 1 week ago. I had been arm in arm with Shion then too. Linking arms with Mion like this really reminded me that they were twins. How much strength they put into it, the sensation of their arms, their warmth, and the blood flowing. I could feel that their living sensations were exactly the same. I think Shion liked you, K-chan. I see. If this were a regular conversation, I might have jumped back red in the face. Right now, though, no matter what I heard, my mind remained at peace. Mion and Shion, you got along well, didn't you? Well, I wonder. Kei-chan, do you think your right hand and left hand got along? Huh? My right hand and left hand? I don't think you could describe them as getting along or not. That's how our relationship is. You can't measure it by the scale of how well we get along. That didn't sound like it meant they got along really well. For example, one of our hands is dominant, so there will always be a better hand. If you only had one oven mitt, you would put it on the dominant hand without thinking, right? I think maybe it was like that for us. That doesn't mean, though, that anyone would be okay with losing their left hand. It's that kind of unexplainable relationship. I think that maybe you live too close together and just stop being able to see it, but I think that means you get along really well. I'm an only child, so the day before the festival, I was really jealous of you of when you and Shion were messing around with each other. I think you're jealous of something that doesn't exist. Yes, we twins used to have a lot of fun playing tricks on people, and now that we have such distinctly different personalities, it just gets in the way. Were they cursed, or were they half self-cautious? The relationship was hard to understand for an outsider. Maybe that wasn't an issue someone like me should intrude on. Just staying silent and nodding gently was the best way to advance the conversation. Mion passed through the wide yard and invited me into the big, desolate forest we'd seen on the way in. Such a big forest was part of the property, so I couldn't help but feel small. It's huge. You must have had a great time playing in it as kids, huh? Mion seemed to be silently reminiscing. I couldn't look into her mind, but she was probably thinking back at those fun days when they played as sisters without any antagonism. Every time the wind blew, it caressed the treetops and the leaves making a swishing murmuring sound. Mion remained silent for a long time, thinking back on her younger sister, whom she had gotten rid of with her own hands. There was no need for me to get a word in. Just walking like this, arm in arm, was enough. Mion suddenly stopped and turned. Shion is still alive. Really? Mion took a hard look into my eyes, then nodded quietly. Yeah. I've been thinking to give her the most horrible death of all, so I had her locked up. I never did think of a good way to do it, though. Mion sounded as though she hated Shion, but also, deep down, she didn't completely detest her. So I took my other hand and rustled Mion's hair with it. Mion didn't only save me, she saved Shion too. I don't think that's what Mion did. Mion may have become a demon and led many people to their deaths, but she fought against it and was able to save 2 people. As I petted Mion, she narrowed her eyes in an entranced smile, and untangled her arm from mine. Then Mion quietly said, "Come with me. I want you to see all of my sins. Although, Kei-chan, it might be the worst thing you've ever seen." I could sense it. There I would probably find all the sacrifices up until now. Looking at them would mean accepting Rika-chan and Satoga's deaths, as well as accepting that my best friend had done it. It's already happened, and it's in the past. You can choose not to look, Kei-chan. If you don't want to, then wait here. I will personally end everything. I was taken aback by how ominous that sounded. I remembered what Rina had told me. Mion might not surrender herself to justice, but instead choose to put an end to things herself. I couldn't leave her on her own. Besides, I agreed to her last request, didn't I? Even if it was hard for me to accept, I'll still do it. Even if I avoided looking, it was something that had already happened. It doesn't matter what I see. Yes, Mion Sonozaki is the best friend I could ever have, and that won't change. It never will. The treetops softly swayed in the wind. You and Rina both. Why do you only get really cool at times like this? You and Rina both. Normally I'd say something rude right back at her, evading the question, but today I didn't. I just answered with a smile. At last, Mion started walking into the thick forest, into the deepest part. After following a thin path that looked like an animal trail for a while, we finally came across a steep incline with a tunnel that reminded me of a coal mine and bomb shelter. We were surrounded by shallow hills. It had been created in a spot not visible from the outside. There were many silhouettes of crows in the trees were there. The abnormal odor I'd been smelling for a while was doubtlessly escaping from inside the place. If you want to turn back, now's your chance. I don't know what kind of person Mian Sonozaki is to you, but if you go inside, that Mian will probably let you. She won't change. I'll say it as many times as I need to. Mian Sonozaki is the best friend I could ever have. I clenched my fists. Inside there was probably a sight beyond anything I could imagine. If I let my guard down, I might end up vomiting. Even so, I'll endure it. I'll overcome this pain and this suffering. It will never change. That Mian is my greatest friend. I am nothing more than a demon, so I don't understand human feelings anymore. I have a feeling, though, that I know why Mian fell in love with you. Don't say that like it's not related to you. You're Mian. You're not a demon. You're human, with human blood, and you're my friend. Mian made a gesture like she was wiping tears from her eyes, then placed a hand on the big door of the tunnel entrance. Alright, I will be right back. I need more water and stuff. I got water. Woohoo! Okay. The lock on it was dauntingly strong looking. It seemed to demand the appropriate resolution from whoever would enter, just like the ritual storehouse. When the double doors opened, a stifling rotten air and a bunch of winged insects came rushing out. I remembered accidentally killing a hermit crab a long time ago by leaving its tank out on the porch, and how intense the odor it left was. Ew. If that was the smell of a corpse, then that's certainly what this smelled like. Inside, it was pitch black, but Mian flicked a switch that turned on a light bulb, illuminating the interior. The path turned into a series of intricate wooden tunnels. We passed spaces that looked like they were for storage. We passed places that looked like someone had lived there. All this indicated that it had been used as a bomb shelter and stockpile during the war. It didn't give an impression of a dug-out bomb shelter that had just been left there, though. There was a sense of dignity, as though this were an underground Sonozaki house constructed underground. Despite being in pitch-black darkness below the ground, the voices of the cicadas were entering through an air hole somewhere, giving it a very mysterious feel. You saw what was in the ritual storehouse, right? The piles of torture instruments? All of them were created to uphold the strict religious laws of Onikafuchi village. They were tools used to kill those who broke the laws in terrible ways as a warning to others. That was a long time ago. One in Nagashi, originally a ritual meant as a deterrent, was once overseen by the three families, but thanks to the Kimiyoshi and the Furuta families going into decline and the way the times changed, actually carrying it out became difficult. I can imagine why. You never think people could be okay with drowning people in a swamp and killing them in modern Japan. That's why the Sonozaki family built this, a secret place, so that we could continue to conduct the rite of Wada Nagashi even in modern times. Mian opened a large, strikingly different door, and inside was none other than a modern storehouse for ritual implements. There's quite a few, isn't there? Some of them were actually brought here from the original storehouse. All of the things there had been rusty and covered in dust, so they didn't seem that real. But the things in here were different. Every one of them had been well maintained, and kept in a state that they could be used right away. Blades gleamed, and spikes were sharpened. Also, perhaps as a precaution for the splatter of blood, the walls and ceiling were covered in the kind of tiling you would see in bathrooms, and there was even a drain set amidst the slight slope of the floor. There was also a coiled rubber hose along the wall attached to a faucet, perhaps for cleaning up the splattered blood. According to something a leader from a long time ago wrote, blood splatter has impact, despite the fact that it doesn't tax the sacrifice. Wada Nagashi was meant as a deterrent after all. My ancestors thought up all the different kinds of things to show off. As she said that, Mian pointed deeper into the torture room so to spot a veil in the darkness. There was surprisingly a room floored with tatami mats, and in the corner was a pile of cushions. They're seats for the audience. When a Nagashi was meant for as a deterrent after all, it wouldn't make sense if there was no guest. Another plushie! Okay. I need to get the plushie. This one. Woohoo! Okay. Thank you for the plush attack, username. I couldn't speak, and I couldn't think of anything to say anyway. Except that if Mian revealing all this to me made her heart feel any lighter, then I was prepared to listen for as long as I needed to. Right here is where I killed everyone. There was no spectators to watch me, but I did the Wananagashi very well. Well, perhaps there was one spectator. Huh? A spectator? Me! I, the demon, was watching the entire time Mian held the Wananagashi ceremony. Mian cackled in self-deprecation. It wasn't a nice-sounding laugh. Back there is the prison. Is Shion there? She nodded slightly. Mian's Wananagashi had ended today. I need to tell Shion that I was safe without a moment's delay. After all, she was probably trembling in fear, at the very moment worrying about when she would be killed. The ostentatious door on the other side opened, revealing what must have been an incredibly expansive space based on the echo it made. Mian groped around in the darkness, and a handful of naked light bulbs came on here and there. As my eyes adjusted, more and more of the great cave showed itself in the faint light. The walls were bare rock surface, and it felt so savage that bomb shelter was the most apparent term for it. Apt term for it. There were small barred rooms built here and there, like holes made by insects biting their way through a giant piece of fruit. It was immediately clear that each one of them was a prison. Where is everyone? Rika-chan and Satoko? They're corpses? I grimaced at her, having said it so outright. Yeah, that's right. The poor things being left here in the dark like this. I didn't want to get them infested with bugs, so I threw them down the well. I'm sorry. So I can't even see their faces in death? Once again, my feelings of regret having confessed everything to Rika-chan came surging forth. If Mian hadn't attached the word sorry to the end of what she had said, I might have punched her. Calm down, Kichimabera. You said it yourself. No matter what, Mian Tsunosuke is your greatest friend. Yeah, my greatest friend. I needed to hear myself say it out loud. Then came the clattering of bars in one of the cells deeper in. When I noticed it, I looked up as well. Shion? Is that Shion? Kei-chan? Is that you, Kei-chan? I ran over to the cell. White hands were peeking out from through the gaps in the bars. It really was her. Are you alright, Shion? Are you hurt? No! No! Shion's face twisted out of shape as she screamed. It was because Mian had appeared right behind me. Of course. Shion didn't know what everything was over yet. Calm down, Shion! Everything is already over! Everything! I spoke in a calm voice as I could manage to try and soothe the agitated Shion. However, it didn't seem like it was getting through her screams. Shion, how have you been? No more, please! No more! I don't want to see anyone else die! If you hate me, just kill me already! I'm the one you hate, right? Kill me! Kill me right now! Sis! Calm down, Shion. It's all over now. It's going to be alright, so calm down. Shion, who was screaming and rattling the iron bars back and forth, was truly in frantic state. I gave a slight shrug of recognition, giving way to Mian. I had realized that if Mian was the one who locked her in here, and if Mian was the one who had scared Shion this much, then Mian was also the only one who could put an end to this. Mian spoke over my shoulder, quietly. Relax. I won't kill you. No, I won't kill you just yet. She burst out into a bizarre laugh, as if trying to make Shion's madness even worse. Shion broke out into a fierce shiver, brought on by that laugh, and rattled the iron bars as she wailed. Please stop! Don't kill Kei-chan! Kei-chan has nothing to do with this, does he? If you're going to kill someone, then kill me right now! I don't want anyone else to die! Ah! You want to die that badly? Then after I've killed this man, I'll take my time making mincemeat out of you. In accordance with the ancient rites, I'll do it slowly, starting with your extremities. I'll shave you down and mince you. I have that mincing machine set up specifically for you, after all. Or would it be funnier if I were to mince up Kei-chan in front of you? Hey, quit it already! What do you have to gain by scaring her at this point? No! Kei-chan, run away! I tried to rebuke Mion for flinging terrible words at her this late in the game, but when I turned around, Mion's mouth, so much so that it was hard to believe, had twisted into a shape even thinner than a crescent moon. It was a smile. I could sense it like a jolt of electricity. The person here wasn't my best friend Mion. It wasn't the Mion Sonozaki who had been tossed about by her heavy duty of succeeding the Sonozaki family either. Then, who was she? Ba-bam! I saw sparks flying before my eyes. Like what happens when you get hit in the back of the head. The strength of my body drained instantly and my head suddenly became heavy. My knees buckled under the temptation to hit the floor. Then, my whole body abruptly collapsed. My face should have hit the floor, but it was comfortable, as if I had fallen onto a down-filled futon. My consciousness reeled, then receded. It was the kind of sensation, like if you took a nap in the car, but you were still half awake and could listen to your parents talking as if they were far away. No, you wouldn't be listening, you would only be hearing it. I was happening so far away, and the conversation was completely unrelated to you, so you would have no interest in it. So whether Shion was yelling in my ears or Mion was in vulgar hysterics, I didn't think it annoying, nor did it interest me. Now then, I wonder how I should go about preparing you. Oh yes, what do you think of a bed of nails? I tested it on those two little brats, but their heads were too small for the restraining table. Let's do that, let's do that! Mion held me from behind and dragged me across the floor. The soles of my feet scraped on it, and one of my shoes fell off. No, please stop, sis! Please stop! Shion's emotions exploded outward, and burst into bitter weeping. As if her crying had whetted Mion's interest, she flung me down and returned to the prison cell. My, you sure can cry with a cute voice, can't you? Your natural bravado was making my skin crawl, but this definitely suits you the best. Coo. Mion, my big sister, I beg you. I don't care how you choose to kill me, but please, at least let Kei-chan go. I'm begging you. Excuse me. Shion had always acted as though she were a cut above her older sister. That Shion, in such a miserable voice that I couldn't have imagined it during those peaceful times, prostrated herself before the older sister she used to scoff at and pleaded forgiveness. Mion looked down with an expression of cool indifference, one that was plainly smiling with joy. You know, I wasn't planning on listening to your petty wishes. The way you're crying, though, it's just too funny. I think maybe I'll change my mind and listen to you. Since come to think of it, I never did anything big sister-like for you. Yes, thank you so much. Alright then, let's hear you apologize for everything. Then maybe I'll let it all be water under the bridge. And maybe, just maybe, I'll let Kei-chan go. Mion said she might let me go, but she never said anything about letting Shion go. Before long, Shion got her hands and knees behind bars and began to speak weak words of apology. They were too faint for me to hear, but they were intention to get across. Despite having watched her with a magnificently jubilant expression, Mion kicked the bars and declared she was unsatisfied. You think you can make up for years of grudges and hard feelings like that? That just will not do. I guess I'll make mincemeat out of both of you. No! Wait, sis! One more chance! Just one more chance! Mion stopped and waved her hand again in resignation. Not because she had grown impatient, but only because she was taking delight in abusing Shion. You can't apologize to my satisfaction anyway. I'll teach you how to make an apology that will get through to your older sister. I'm only going to tell you once. If you get even a letter wrong, you're out. Got it? Yes. Thank you, sis. I agree. Oh. Shion's miserable voice cried out, having become utterly hoarse. The sensation tearing through my chest returned a little at a time. I realized I was feeling of anger bubbling up. I was slowly regaining control of my body. However, I was only able to feel my skin and my blood flowing at the moment. I still couldn't voluntarily move my fingers. Did you memorize it? Then let's hear you say it, sincerely and faithfully, from beginning to end, with all your heart. If you can do it properly, then I'll only kill you. Yes, thank you so much. something was strange. Something had become strange at some point. Until just a few moments ago, I was sure this had been Mian, but at some point, she had become someone else. The Mian I knew well would never do something so nasty like enjoy trampling all over someone's dignity like this. Now, let's hear it. Your big sister's listening closely. Shion Sonozaki is... When I ran over to Shion's cell earlier, had the real thing been swapped out with a fake right behind me? Anyway, this couldn't possibly be Mian. Shion Sonozaki is a lowly, worthless sow, not fit to even lick her big sister Mian's feet. And when I think of the countless times I've been rude to my big sister, without knowing my place... Yes, that's the point. I'll permit you to say a little more now, okay? Blood circulated through my whole body. My numb senses were returning. Just a little more. While Shion was still holding Mian's... No, that thing pretending to be Mian attention. Hurry up. I reflect on how impertinent I've been, and swear loyalty to my big sister Mian for the rest of my life. So, Mian's burst of laughter echoed through the big cave, growing to a terrifying level. That was not the laugh of someone who was alive in this world. It was none other than the laugh of a demon from the bowels of the earth. She laughed from her stomach until she grew tired of it and stopped smiling suddenly as if sniffing a wire. Alright already. That was funny enough for me. I didn't think you'd throw away that much of your pride. That was plenty enjoyable. Mian began to drag me again after I finally got the feeling in my body back and pulled me towards the torture chamber. Sis! Only kill me! Please forgive him! Don't worry, alright? I'll be sure to kill you real good. After letting you get an earful of Kei-chan's screams, that is. No! After dragging me to the torture chamber, she skillfully strapped me into the restraining table. Before I knew it, I was sprawled out and bound. She forced open my hands, with which I couldn't even make a satisfying fist, and tightly restrained each one of my fingers. It's this one! It's this part! Oh no! She fastened only my hands and my fingers at that, tightly with hinges, and locked them in place. Sis, don't kill him! She's not going to kill him. The door to the big cave within jails had been left open so I could hear Shion's cries of mortification the entire time. Can you hear it, Shion? I'm going to get started now. Please enjoy Kei-chan's young screams. Give it a fucking rest. The feeling in my body returned, and the first action I took was to tell off that thing that looked like Mian. Awake at last, are we? I lied before, you know. About wanting to give Shion the most miserable death of all, but locking her up because I hadn't thought of a good way yet? That was a lie. Mian brought over something like a toolbox. From inside it, she removed a large metal hammer, and next to that, she began to line up what looked like long, strangely shaped nails, whose heads had been turned into hooks like the kind you'd see on a harpoon. I'll let her hear the screams of all those people that died because of her, and after they've soaked in her very soul, then I'll kill her. Okay, username, I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye for now, and I don't blame you for heading out. You're heading out at a good time to head out at. I've got a pretty good taste, huh? Who are you? Huh? I'm Mian. Mian Sonozaki. Has the fear driven you crazy? No, you're not. There's no way you can be Mian Sonozaki. Mian snorted and continued her preparations for the horrifying torture. I see. Then if I'm not Mian, who am I? A demon. Huh? You're not Mian. Mian was just here. Give her back. Kei-chan, is your brain really doing okay? You're not going crazy with fear? Don't touch me! You damn demon! Give her back! Give Mian back! My best friend! Give Mian back! Mian stood there for a few moments with her jaw hanging open, not having expected me to say that. I myself knew that I was about to go insane. I knew it was nonsense to demand Mion's return when she was right in front of me, but this person in front of me couldn't possibly have been Mion. There was no way. I couldn't accept that. So, this is what I thought. Mion really had been possessed by a demon, and was controlling Mion as if it were a separate personality. Mion was just a victim by being manipulated by it. The evil one was really this thing. It had all to be doing this demons possessing her. When Mion heard that, she started to guffaw laughing so hysterically that she started to cough and almost choked. You really are a piece of work, you know that? In this very moment, Mion Sonozaki is trying to kill you and you're trying to reject me? I never knew there was such a funny person in all the world. If you want to laugh, do it all you want. No matter what you say though, I won't accept that you're Mion. Give her back. Away with you, demon. Yeah, I think this is the scene in the anime. Kei-chan, are you trying to kill me by drowning me in my own tears? Sorry, I was sending messages. It's taking longer than I thought. This chapter. No matter what, I wouldn't lose to that laughter of hers. I shouted loudly. I shouted from the bottom of my heart so that the real Mion trapped inside the Mion I saw in front of me would be able to hear. You can do it, Mion! Don't lose to this piece of shit demon! You're strong! Show me how strong you are! Wah! Okay, laughter. The tears welled up and flooded down her face. Her hands were busy with the restraints, so she couldn't even wipe them. She just let them flow. Please, Mion! Mion! Where? Did you lose to a demon like this? You're not that weak, are you? Don't lose! Fight! Fight! Mion, desperately enduring her laughter, pressed one of the long nails to the tip of my left pinky. In her left hand was the hammer. Hi, Psycho! Welcome to the stream! Welcome back! At her side were dozens more nails. I could tell what she was about to do, though I wish I couldn't. Even so, I couldn't afford to be scared. That was why I shouted. What? My sides hurt like they're about to split. Is that all? I'm going to get started now. Be sure to give her some good screams. Not only am I torturing you, Kei-chan, but I'm torturing Shion as well. Why? Why would you... Mion! Then I wept. Only sobs came out. They weren't an acceptance of the torture about to be performed, however. They were tears of regret that Mion had lost to the demon. Yet a small change did occur in the Mion in front of me. Her heightened excitement was draining little by little. By the time I realized it, the one in front of me had returned to being Mion. Kei-chan? This may not be something pleasant to take to the grave with you. But you really seem to want to know, though, so I'll tell you just one thing. I didn't know if this was Mion, or just a display of momentary humanity the demon had recovered. A long time before the demon came to live inside me, it was gnawing at my heart, trying to spur me to violence, but I suppressed it with my reason. That settled the demon down, and I got to thinking it had gone away somewhere. As it turned out, I was wrong. It hadn't left me. It just had gone to sleep. I noticed that there were tears forming in her eyes. The demon woke up again due to a certain small opportunity. What do you think that opportunity was? Eh. I'm thinking. Sorry. Okay. So there was a sad and yet reproachful light in Mion's eyes. Do you understand? I don't. I don't know what gave the demon the chance to beat Mion. This might be strange for me, a demon, to say, but you're the reason that everything got so messed up. The tears welling up in her eyes spilled downward all of a sudden. At that time, if you had given me that doll you got without hesitating, maybe everything wouldn't have gotten so twisted. The doll I got? That doll that I got when we had our club meeting at the toy store that Sunday. You probably can't understand. I wouldn't expect you to. But, you see, all sorts of things started falling over like dominoes after that, and soon it was too much for me to control. It only makes sense that you wouldn't be aware of knocking over the first one, since it was so small, but you're the one who set it up. That can't... me? If you hadn't made Mian cry, then I wouldn't have had to wake up. Is that enough for you to die in peace? A mistake that I made on that day was what messed everything up? That can't be, can it? It only makes sense that you wouldn't be aware of it. Even so, Kei-chan, you are without a doubt the cause. If you had nonchalantly given me the doll that day, then I don't think this would have happened. I wanted to say like I just remembered something as I recalled that day. Rina had told me about that, and I thought I had apologized. I didn't apologize to Mian though. It had been Xian. In other words, oh god, I hadn't said a single word of apology to Mian. Today I came to this house saying I had something to apologize for. But I never said a word of apology about this. Come to think of it, when I apologized for going into the ritual storehouse, Mian looked a little bit lonely, like she was disappointed. Why didn't I realize that until just now? Rina told me at the time, and now she herself, no, the demon was telling me, is the only way for a dense idiot like me to be cured to die altogether? I can no longer hold back the hot tears from pouring out of me. I simply just cried and cried, and reflected indifferently on the taste of my tears, on the taste of regret. Can I start now? This method of torture is very simple. I'll nail one of these into the joint of the end of your left pinky finger, then I'll nail each one in order until I get to your thumb, and then I'll go back to your pinky and nail one into the joint in the middle. So on, and so on until I hammer 15 nails into your left hand. When that's over with, I'll do your right hand next. After that, if you're still conscious, I'll tell you. There are a lot of nerves bundled in your fingertips, so it hurts far more than you could imagine. Some people apparently pass out before you finish hammering 30 nails into their hands, so... Mian pressed the tip of a nail to my left pinky finger. My wrists, my arms, and all my joints on my fingers were strapped in so tightly it hurt, and I couldn't even twitch. I didn't hesitate at all when I was torturing the others. Why do I hesitate now? If this will satisfy your demon, Mian, if it will sate the demon, then do to me what you will. Are you serious? Compared to how much I hurt Mian, this is nothing, right? Do as much as you want. In exchange, promise me 2 things. Mian was silent. She did, however, wait for me to speak. After you're satisfied with causing me pain, forgive Xian. She's been punished enough to make up for her crime of sneaking into the storehouse, hasn't she? You. After all this, you can still worry about Xian more than yourself. The other thing is that when you've had your fill, you disappear. Give that body back to Mian. That's all. You know, are you not even considering possibly begging for your life or anything? Can I ask you to promise 3 things instead of 2? The third is to leave me alive. You said 2 in the beginning, didn't you? So you can't even have any more. That's a shame. In such an abnormal situation, Mian and I laughed quietly together, as if sharing a stupid joke. I probably won't keep the promises, understand? I'm a demon after all. I guess there's nothing I can do then. I recalled tightening my hands into fists when enduring the pain at the dentist's office. Right now, though, they were opened all the way to my fingertips, so I couldn't even grip them, so instead I tightened my toes. Okay, do it. Alright, this is where we're gonna stop, because I have things to do, and I didn't anticipate for this chapter to be so long. So before we get to the torture, I will do more Higurashi next week during the weekend. Probably Saturday at 3 or 2. Either or. But next Saturday, I plan on being on the podcast again, since the last podcast was so short for the recast thing. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining me, and I hope everyone enjoyed the tale so far. Mian's losing her shit, so that's cool. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed, and I hope to see everyone again soon. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.